I would say we should not confuse science literacy with knowledge of science as distinct from passion for science. You can be passionate about science and not really know much about it. You can dream about what kinds of things science and technology can bring to your civilization without even being the professional scientist or the technologist. So when I look at elementary school children and I see them excited about programming that is actually fundamentally conceived for adults, but children can consume that product. I see their eyes open and I see them dream in the way that I know I dreamed when I was a child, where anything was possible. By the way, the idea, you can say, well, how does that put food on your plate? If you go to Mars, you're breaching frontiers of astrophysics, of geophysics, of biology, the sustaining of human life. You're going to be looking for life while you're there. And those are goals. Those are forces that operate on the ambitions of a nation. You can turn a sleepy country into an innovation nation when you realize that a nation or the world are engaged in these frontier activities. And you come up in the school system, you see those headlines drawn weekly about what new thing got discovered for the astronauts who are on some other location, and you say, I want to be a part of that great adventure. And then you don't need special programs to get people interested in science because the very news headlines are the ones doing that for you. So in 100 years, like I said, all wars over limited resources are over because we have access to the unlimited resources of our backyard, and that new backyard is our solar system.
In the 1920s, which was a watershed decade in the history of science, in that decade, we discovered that not only our galaxy, the Milky Way, is not the only existence of anything in the universe, that there are other Milky Ways out there.
That recently?
1920s.
Was it just the optics didn't exist for that?
We needed a big enough telescope, and Edwin Hubble wielded all the glass that's necessary to accomplish that back in the 1920s. He said Hubble, before the telescope, was a man and had his own telescope, the biggest of its day, and he made that discovery. That there were these spiral fuzzy things in the night sky. We thought they were just local to us. They're whole other systems of stars. 100 billion stars unto itself, outside of our system. Not only was that discovered in 1926, 1929 he discovers that the universe is expanding, which means it may have had a back then, it may have had a beginning. If it's expanding, that meant it was littler in the past. Well, there must have been a day when it was all together in the same place. Thus was born the Big Bang. Okay, so now, also in that decade, quantum mechanics, quantum physics was discovered. That is the science of the small, the science of electrons, protons, neutrons, particles, nuclei. At the time, you'd say, this is just physicists burning tax money. Because who cares about the atom? I got my horse to feed. I got kids, you got issues in society. Yet it's quantum mechanics that is the entire foundation of our technological revolution. There would be no computers. There would be none of what you take for granted, your iPod, your iPhone, cell phones, the space program, without our understanding of the laws of physics as they operate on that atomic and molecular and nuclear level. And so the chemist has no understanding of the periodic table of elements without quantum mechanics. To them, it's just a list of elements. Quantum mechanics tells you why this column is there, and that's there, why this mates with that, and why that makes a molecule with that. That's quantum mechanics, and it's unheralded. You ask me, is there any discovery that has changed how we live? It is quantum mechanics. And I make this point because I'm ready to... Today, you hear people saying, why are we spending money up there when we got problems on Earth? And people don't connect the time delay between the frontier of scientific research and how that's going to transform your life later down the line. All they want is a quarterly report that shows the product that comes out of it. That is so short-sighted that that's the beginning of the end of your culture.
So it's...
Concern about Congress? Well, I checked these numbers. 57% of Senate, 38% of the House cite law as their profession. And when you look at law, law is, well, what happens in the courtroom. It doesn't go to what's right. It goes to who argues best. And there's this urge, the entire profession is founded on who the best arguers are.
Right. It's not, a courtroom is not about the truth. It's about that the theory, if I get what you're saying, is that each side argues their version, and then the truth somehow emerges.
That's the premise. However, the practice, which, for example, is bred in debating teams, for example, where you know the subject, but you don't know what side you're going to be put on to argue.
Right.
And so the act of arguing and not agreeing seems to be fundamental to that profession, and Congress is half that profession. And I realized this when I was a kid. I was 12, and I said, oh, I wonder what profession all these senators and congressmen were. Law, businessman, law. And I said, there are no scientists. Where are the engineers? Where's the rest of life represented here? And so when I look at the conflicts, the argumentative conflicts, I just sit back and say, you know, can I buy an engineer, please? Or put somebody, a business person who knows how to make a hard but significant financial decision, because at the end of the day, they got to make their books work.
But, you know, I think that is part of it.
I'm screaming, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I like screaming.
All of a sudden, art did not have to capture reality. It was no longer the obligation of the artist because we had photographs to do that. And in that period, Impressionism was born, where the artist said, I'm not going to paint what I see. I'm going to paint what this image feels like to me. 1888, we're still in this period. Van Gogh, in the early morning hours. Van Gogh paints. He paints this. It's called The Starry Night. It is the first painting I know of where the background is the subject of the painting. And that background is the night sky. And it is elevated the cosmos to become fair game to the artist. And I submit to you that scientific discovery, especially cosmic discovery, does not become mainstream until the artists embrace the fruits of those discoveries. There's no tablet in the sky that said it had to be simple to end up being complex. It's just a remarkable fact about the universe. So why not celebrate it? The fact that pie, right?
Let's say the numbers together. 3.1415926.
We got a few
That's
geeks over
pretty good.
there.
That's a nerd fest.
We got a geek thing going on over there.
Not bad.
The fact that you take a circle of any size, a circle the size of the universe itself, and divide it by its own radius, and you get that number, that's beautiful. I have to pause, and I get misty thinking of this. It's not. That's just another one. That the atoms and molecules in your body are traceable to the crucibles in the centers of stars that manufactured these elements over its lifespan, when unstable, on death, exploding its enriched guts across the galaxy, scattering it into gas clouds that would ultimately collapse and make a star and have the right ingredients to make planets and people. Which means we are part of this universe As I've said many times, and goes back, not only are we in the universe is in us. That is a profound concept, and I think it's the greatest gift that astrophysics gave culture in the 20th century.
Congress is considering pulling the plug on the James Webb Space Telescope, which is the successor.
Don't get me started.
No, I want to get you started. This is the successor to the Hubble, and they say it can peer into the universe and maybe see the moment when the universe was born. I don't even know how that happens. But it costs $6.8 billion.
Well, first of all, let's clarify what the NASA budget is. The bank bailout, that sum of money
Could reach Venus.
that sum of money is greater than the entire 50-year running budget of NASA.
Wow.
And so when someone says we don't have enough money for this space probe, I'm asking, no, it's not that you don't have enough money. It's that the distribution of money that you're spending is warped in some way, that you are removing the only thing that gives people something to dream about tomorrow. Do you remember the 60s? You remember the 60s and 70s? You didn't have to go more than a week before there's an article in Life magazine, the home of tomorrow, the city of tomorrow, transportation of tomorrow. All that ended in the 1970s. After we stopped going to the moon, it all ended. We stopped dreaming. And so I worry that decisions that Congress makes doesn't factor in the consequences of those decisions on tomorrow. Tomorrow's gone.
You know what?
They're playing for tomorrow, metaphoric tomorrow, not the literal tomorrow. They're playing for the quarterly report. They're playing for the next election cycle. And that is mortgaging the actual future of this nation. The rest of the world is going to be passers by.